Sattler Files.
Welcome back to the Sattler Files. I'm Tricia Duffield and we're speaking with Inspector Neil Royle, retired, with our Law and Order. Good morning, Neil.
Tricia, how charming. Look across there. Murray's a wonderful fellow, he really is. But it's nice to have the ladies touch. I'm surrounded here. You've got just been on one side and you on the other, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yes, it'll be fine.
And Murray will be eating his heart out because he's not even here. Good to see
so
you. Welcome.
Lovely. Yes,
welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have you filled out your census?
Of course you do. Otherwise, it's $180 a day until you do. Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, lovely. So, online or?
Yeah, online. I didn't do it. The bride did it. I just provided information like one. When she said, "How many in the house tonight?" Well, there's me and there's you. So my contribution was one.
Was one.
Yeah, but she did it online and probably just as fortunate that she did before all things went pear-shaped.
It went terribly pear-shaped.
Yeah.
It went terribly pear-shaped. Do you know much about what can happen with something like that? Hackers.
Yeah, and Murray and I talked the other day about when the elections were on, when they're going to get to electronic elections, electronic voting, rather than going there and putting little crosses in little boxes at the polling station. Perhaps this is the very reason why they perhaps won't go to electronic election. This is a fiasco. The Census Bureau, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, ABS. They have been banging on about how secure it is and how it's safe and all your information's protected and no one can do this and no one can do that. So ease up. They hacked into the Pentagon, did they not?
Yes.
They hacked into NASA. They've hacked into banks. They can hack into wherever they like. An interesting parallel drawn and described as what has happened was this morning. I heard that they likened it to not so much as someone getting in stealing information. They likened it to the big sales at David Jones, where there's all these people are in the shop and they're all in there, and some more are trying to get in, and there's that many in the doorway. They can't. It's all. That's how they describe it. So it's not a matter of someone pinching on information and so forth. There's just so many were trying to squeeze all that info in that little itty-bitty tube, and it didn't all fit.
But to be honest, who wouldn't have seen that would happen? How many times do people go, just go online, it's so easy, just pop online. And it's the system itself just can't cope. And this is obviously, a major embarrassment for our Prime Minister, who is our technocrat, who is the man who lives and breathes all of that. And it must just sit. It looks ridiculous, to be honest, doesn't it?
The Daily Mail pasted in this morning as well. Poor old Malcolm. They're saying to Malcolm, broadband must be working at Malcolm Turnbull's mansion. The Prime Minister says he completed his census in a flash as millions crashed all around him. Well, yeah, good on you. Well, I'm glad. If there's they've only got 3 million on through. So the rest of them are still messing about and so forth with their paper ones and the other electronic things. So I'd be intrigued to see how, say for example, you were planning to go overseas today, as Murray is.
Yep.
And he tried to do his census yesterday and he can't.
Yep.
Now what's he got to do? Go to Canada and try and do it from there, does he? Or what does he do? Or does he get fined for being 4 days late? Or do they make allowances? Or does that then help out those who don't want to do it at all?
And it would have to call into question as well, wouldn't it, that when we look at this particular census, Is it giving us an accurate snapshot? One, is it, if people may have filled it in incorrectly, may have filled it in late, may have not filled it in, may have filled it in twice online because of all those reasons.
Yep.
We might not be getting the most accurate snapshot. We've also got those that are filled in, by hand.
Exactly.
Compared to those that are being filled in online. How do we mash all of that together and make sure that that's an accurate snapshot?
Absolutely. And there'll be those, of course, who've gone tick on their computer and gone enter, and it comes back and says error. So they've gone back again and enter, and it's gone. Then they've gone to the third time and it's gone. And did the other two go as well, or what? Where are we here? Or
we might look back on 2016 and in the future and go, what a year!
Yeah,
what a year! Population tripled.
Exactly right. Exactly right. We now can't cope with the freeways at all because there's that many people on them. That's what it is. We wonder why it's congested on the freeway every morning. It's because there's 28 million people in Australia we didn't know about. Interesting that some of our leaders, other leaders in the Senate and so forth, had declined to add their surnames to this census. Interesting, and I'm inclined to agree. And the argument, the ABS will say, well, yeah, it's the information is all secure. It's just information we need to know. Why do they need to know your surname?
Exactly. It's a count.
Exactly.
It's not a register of individual people. It's a count of demographics.
Yes,
isn't it?
indeed. So the document comes to your home address with your password on it for the computer, and it's to the householder at your home address. So that's got to be me. Then it's got a barcode underneath that. So you're not going to try and tell me they don't link the barcode with the address to make sure that you have indeed done as you're supposed to do, and they would know indeed, and because they don't share information between the tax office and Centrelink, and you're not much, because they know who's who at the zoo. It's only the wetbacks aren't going to fill it out.
Exactly. Well, mine, I did the paper one that the snails actually got to a little bit. So some of my little sections there were a bit eaten by snails. But
that'll come back to you though. So you blast this with a shotgun. It's an affront against the Commonwealth. You wait, you'll get a bill.
It's funny. I'm living at the moment though in a world that is probably wind the clock back about 10 years. So I'm in a house without Wi-Fi, with a person without a computer.
Oh, wonderful! That's great.
So I'm getting it from a different perspective. And this morning he was laughing, going, "I told them, I knew this would happen." So all the people that are, all the troglodytes amongst us will all be going, you know what, technology isn't all it's cracked up to be. It is all it's cracked up to be. It just has to be used effectively. And I just think this was extremely poor planning because the system, it was untested because they had no idea how many people would actually use it. And an untested system like that for something as important as the census is probably not a good idea.
Well, the Sattler family would attest to the fact that I'm a techno whiz when it comes to computers and those sorts of things. I didn't do it. My bride did this one because when it comes to computers, I can do caps lock, and on very, very cold mornings, I can do num lock. I've done a lot the last couple of weeks, num lock, but so my bride is filling it out and yelling out, saying, "What about so-and-so? What education?" And I'm yelling. So I could be feeding all the wrong information to her. She's going to push the button. So when they come back and knock on the door and say, "Excuse me," we're going to go, her. I didn't know. Oh, dear,
you wonder as well.
I didn't sign anything. There's nothing to sign to say to attest that's truthful.
No, I wonder if it's a test really of the honesty of the average Australian.
Wow, that's risky.
It is extremely risky.
Average Australian, the honesty of the average Australian.
And
All mixed metaphors in amongst there. Oh, never mind. But still, we will know in a fortnight time or 3 weeks time or whatever.
23rd of September is when isn't that when they start? That's when they start.
I'll bet you a nickel that it's not going to be out on the 23rd of September. I'll just bet you.
There's some people sitting in offices this morning going, "We thought it would work. We were so confident."
And we can't even blame Australia Post because they're saving that for the paper ones. Are we cynical or not? I had enough cynicism from the other end of the table when Murray was here. Not you, Trish. Please.
I'm a realist, not a cynic.
Good girl.
Now, I'm going to ask you a subject that is probably anyone with children, anyone who's a reasonable person would have thoughts about and would be concerned about, and that is sex offenders and sex offenders against children in particular. And we have the National Sex Offender Register. I read a fantastic story the other day about an Australian ex-police officer from Victoria who sold everything he had and went to Southeast Asia to help victims of the sex trade, children, and just the scope and the scale of that. And that's a whole other issue, But this amazing fellow... But one of the things that he was concerned about was that Australian men on the sex offenders register were able to travel freely. There were no restrictions, according to him, on travel by people who were registered sex offenders, which struck me as...
That's remarkable, really.
Yeah, extraordinary and self-defeating because... You
can't be in the wrong suburb if you're on the sex offender register. You can't be in certain streets, you can't go here, but you can... Travel internationally.
Travel to Thailand and participate in, in a thriving sex trade.
Wow.
So it's interesting. So it made me think, well, I don't really know that much about how the National Sex Offender Register works, and I wouldn't expect you to know.
I don't know a whole lot about it either.
But what are what's the broad sort of premise of it?
Well, I think you can go in to the Sex Offender Register. I don't know that you get names, but you get the number of people in various suburbs. I think that's that's broadly my understanding. I have not been in there to look, but I know there's lots of hue and cry about naming names and so forth.
Yeah, and the privacy issues and so on.
And the Darren Hinch of our lives, who's now in a position within Parliament that maybe he can do something about it. But he certainly went to jail with his beliefs about naming, and he did so on air.
Yes,
named
indeed.
Sex offenders and so forth. So they go to great lengths to protect the identity of people who are on the register, much to the dismay of those who suddenly find out that there's one living next door.
Exactly. Now, if we can go back, there's sort of a couple of parts to this.
Yep.
One is the rights of the victim and the rights of offenders and individuals.
Yes.
So this is a perfect example where it appears that the offender has more rights than the victim, i.e. right to privacy, confidentiality, and all that sort of thing. I mean, there are restrictions on their movement, but, that's probably not a great imposition on someone who's of that ilk. So what are your thoughts on how we do protect offenders as against the rights of victims?
What a beauty. What a beauty. And that's been the bane of my life for the 40 plus years I was in the police force. And even you see it in this day and age when it comes to television coverage, some channels will pixel people's heads out and some others don't. So the police, for example, they are compelled to protect the identity of whoever they got in custody.
Yep.
So if they get a person who's just wearing his bathers and he's got nothing to cover his head up with, guess what the police are going to do? Find something for him to cover his head up with.
Really? That's a directive?
They must, if he wants to protect his identity, we must find something for him to protect it with. And what a joke.
A paper bag.
I'm just saying, take your shorts off, put them over your head, mate. No one's going to look at your head then. But it is, and there's no doubt whatever, the law is there to protect the criminal. That sounds pretty cynical, I know, but that is true. That is true when you consider the rights of accused persons as opposed to the rights of victims. And if you take the most vulnerable victim level down to children, they've got no rights at all. No rights at all. And I suppose, again, cynically, when sex offenders get to prison, as not enough of them do, but when they do, surprise, surprise, even crims have got kids. And they don't like sex offenders with children either, and they're not getting a hiding or whatever it is, or get boiling water poured over them as happened last week.
Or bags of
excrement and goodies.
And most people would go, do you know what?
That's heartbreak.
Fantastic.
Yeah, good job. Good. Get him again.
Exactly. But isn't that terrible that we have to leave it really up to other offenders, other prisoners to actually exact the sort of justice that really should be exacted upon those people from the beginning, from the beginning.
And it is a brave person who says what everybody else is thinking, because you'll be pilloried. You really will, and it sticks in the craw of police officers internationally, I would say, across the board, where they have to protect those sorts of people.
Yeah. I can imagine being someone working with, say, children in Southeast Asia where that sex trade is rife, and having these Australian blokes. Off they go. Fantastic. Setting up. One person that this police officer used as an example of how unjust and how wrong this freedom of travel was that this sex offender actually went to Southeast Asia and set up an education establishment. It was a type of school or something for children, and was on the register of sex offenders in Australia, and was just
wow.
You would think that would be one of the first things that once you're on that register, the list of restrictions, if confidentiality is part of it, then impose the other restrictions to protect people from, the reach of those people.
I know privacy is important, but they do carry it to extremes. They really do carry it to extremes, and it's the greatest out of all time when it comes to dealing with corporate bodies and so forth. They just play the privacy card. Sorry, and tell you nothing.
Yeah,
which is great, and if, for example, with your own banks and those sorts of things, there, even if I was sick and gave permission for my wife to make inquiries on my behalf, that's fine on a one-off.
Yep.
If she asked another time, No, not until I've got something in writing from me. So here's me on my deathbed, got to write a letter to them and say, yes, you can tell her I've got 19 and 4pence in the bank. Good grief. But they carry it too far. And
Yep.
I think, I agree with Hinch, you are entitled to know. If these sex offenders are in the community, you're entitled to know.
Absolutely. I now have a granddaughter, and when I was a parent, I used to be, you're ever vigilant.
Yep.
But I think the older I get, the sort of, I suppose the more disillusioned I am about human nature, sadly. And I now have a granddaughter, and it's just, it plays on my mind that I would not know who lives around
Exactly.
her. And you look at someone like, young William Tyrrell, who was staying at his grandmother's place.
Yes.
And her home was literally encircled by sex offenders, that community where William Tyrrell went missing. The number of potential offenders or potential suspects was ridiculous. And I thought that was terrifying, that
Yes.
that child's grandmother had no idea that when that child was coming and playing on her front lawn, she was exposing him to the danger of, blokes that were in her, her
Exactly.
neighbourhood. And that you could extrapolate that could be any of us in any suburb anywhere.
Yeah.
And I just think that is a tragedy, just, and a nightmare.
Well, now that you've brought it up, I think this, if Hinch has ears everywhere, we would hope, he's going to pick up on this, because I didn't know that the restrictions placed upon unknown sex offenders, registered sex offenders, didn't extend beyond the beach.
Yeah.
Did not extend beyond the beach, and you can go in other countries and play merry hell.
Yeah.
No, needs to be addressed.
Needs to be addressed. No, thank goodness for the human headline, and that he has a legitimate platform now that he can.
Good for him.
Yeah,
Yep,
good
yep.
for him. Now, one other subject that you probably get sick to death of talking about this, but I've just driven from way out down every freeway and every main road to
You're
get
very
here.
brave this time of the day. Good
I
work.
know, and I'm calmer now because I've had about 10 coffees. But I was fist in the air the whole way down because of people in Perth and in Western Australia who drive in the right-hand lane of a double or triple carriage freeway. Now, I've also just driven from the east coast to here, 4,000-something kilometres, and I can say, hand on my heart, Neil, West Australian drivers, in my opinion, are the worst in Australia.
And there's a little bracket to say, present company accepted.
Present company accepted.
That's your mean to spin. We're accepted.
And please don't mention which car I drive. But it is seriously frustrating.
Unhappily, it's not unlawful for them to be in the right-hand lane in certain circumstances, would you believe? Don't get away from the fact there are those who are piggish enough who will sit out there until the cows come home because they don't care, and that's an attitude thing.
Yes,
don't care. They don't care.
Yes,
and as we've discussed in previous times, that they don't get taught those things when they get their licence. If you did those sort of things where you're going for your licence, you probably wouldn't get it. So
yes.
No, this has come along afterwards where I'll sit where I like and I'll drive where I like and so forth. Unhappily, yes, if you're out in any carriageway where the speed limit is 90 kilometres an hour or greater, you're not allowed to be out in the right-hand lane unless you are overtaking slower traffic, or you're about to get off, or traffic congestion is so thick that you can't do anything else, or there's a prank up ahead, or whatever. But you can't be out in that right-hand lane on the freeways.
Over 90. Right.
So the Canning highways and Stirling highways and Leach highways, sit where you like.
Oh, right.
Because they're 70.
Yes,
and the 80s are the same. Sit where you like. But common sense does come into play, and all right, and there's an argument there that if you're doing, say, on the freeway, if you're doing 100 kilometres an hour on the freeway, who cares what lane you're in? Because lawfully you can't really overtake them because you'll be speeding. So, but if the ones that are sitting out there doing 85, they're the ones that cause everyone's frustration, and that's what needs to be addressed. Otherwise, I wouldn't even, if they're doing the speed limit, I don't care what lane they're in, but because you shouldn't be going past them anyway. But there are those who sit out there and just. Yeah.
It is so frustrating.
It is frustrating.
Because I think the right-hand lane should just be, the risk-taker's lane and the non-risk taker's lane. So no matter what speed it is, whether it's 90 plus, 70 plus, 80 plus, whatever, right-hand lane is for those who want to just, maybe move a little quicker. Everyone else.
Wow.
Just a theory, Neil. I don't do this myself.
No, well, good.
But I don't know. I look at the traffic and you go, what's happening here? Why are we all going so slow? That four-wheel drive up there with one person in it sitting, 1 kilometre below the speed limit in the right-hand lane is banking everybody else up. And plus also because on West Australian roads and especially the metro roads, there's so much heavy vehicle traffic.
Yep.
So really that, out, around, back in, that's what that lane is for. Otherwise we're all sitting behind trucks going.
So you're advocating
50.
for a flog merchant's lane then?
Flog merchants lane.
So if you want to, that'll catch on, I'm sure.
Yeah, I reckon. And then, free for all. Because I
Wonderful.
have studied the psychology of the roads, Neil.
Have you?
Yes.
Wow, I'm not going to say anything now.
And
And you found that?
if I was an employer, I would go out for a drive with someone, and if they were the people that sat as a plodder in the right-hand lane, I wouldn't take them on. Not adventurous enough. The ones that are out in that right-hand lane, give it a little bit of a go, take a slight risk for an advantage, tick, got the job.
I read somewhere once that if all the vehicles in the world were lined up bumper to bumper, some git in a Volkswagen pull out and try and pass. That's probably true. My heavens. So I'm sure Lisa Harvey listened to all this in the Minister for Police and Road Safety, and she think let's take this, another good idea from a woman.
I just think it's a manners thing. I actually do think that West Australian drivers need really, and I'm not advocating speeding. It's just a manners thing.
Good manners cost nothing, and unfortunately, and as I've said time and time again, driver behaviour is one thing, and you can change driver behaviour by education, enforcement, and other things. But attitude, that's difficult. That's ingrained, as your psychoanalysis of drivers in this country would have shown. It's in the mind. Don't care. I'm sitting out here. If I want to, I will.
Exactly. That I think that's what I find frustrating is more that I'm confronted by yet another example of human nature at its not at its best, not at its worst,
and it encourages
but not at its best.
Dare I use the term road rage?
Road rage
encourages that.
It does. I actually found, like this morning, even just getting here, I had to keep sort of doing the. It's fine.
We didn't do a while ago, and you tell us all about getting out there, ramming them, and taking all the rest. Didn't see any then, but it must be there. Oh, you look calm now, anyway.
Yeah, I've calmed down now. But it is interesting to see, because I know in New South Wales, you dare sit in that lane and you will get.
Yeah, they'll tell you.
They'll tell you. And when I first was over there, I thought people are so aggressive here, but it actually works. It's you've got a lot more traffic there, but it flows a lot better. And I have found here that those snarls, those unnecessary snarls. So people listening, honestly, if you're sitting in the right-hand lane and you think, it's no harm, I'm doing the speed limit, just move over.
And what we'll do later on, we'll give you a heads up out there when Tricia's actually finishing here today. So get off the roads, get out of the way. Let this girl through.
I'm that one with my little fist shaking out of my 1993 Toyota Corolla.
We've heard about her. Good for you.
Do you know one of the lovely things was I drove over here, and the day I got here, the rego on my car ran out from New South Wales. And so I was like, oh, great, I can register it here. And I got to choose my number plate region. And so I was able to choose the number plate from my birthplace. And I thought that was just super cool.
Well done. Did they put your car over the pits?
3 times.
I bet they did. It's that Duffield woman again. Give her the once over. Give her the twice over. No, either 3.
The time it passed, because I was by now in tears, because it actually took 3 times, because it is a 1993 Corolla that did cost me $800, but it's just a peach, and it drove all the way over the Nullarbor.
Good for you.
Absolutely. I love this vehicle. It's just the best ever. But I said to the young man who was doing the 3rd inspection, I said, if it doesn't pass...
Set fire to it.
No. Oh. I said, I'm coming to stay at your place because it means I can't get home. Yeah. And he was like, oh, righto.
And did you have one of those good lines like, now I know why they call this the pits?
I didn't. No,
Desmond's used that line. She has. Haven't you, dear?
Yeah. I maintained an extremely cheery but fragile exterior. Sort of that's how I psych myself up to be cheerful, but on the brink of crying and hysteria.
Mind you, having had a lot to do with vehicle examiners in the past over years and so forth, they haven't got the most cheerful disposition, have they really?
No.
I mean, most of them look like they've lost a Reebok and found a thong. And you look and think, oh my God, I haven't got this guy, I hope. I mean, you can tell from when they give you the wave on. Oh God, here he comes! And hoping got any fly specks on my windscreen, or they'll go to jail.
Well, my car now looks amazing. It looks like it just rolled off the factory floor. But it was a bit sad actually getting a piece of paper that kept saying fail.
Wow.
Fail. And you know what? The other thing that was really interesting, Neil, was that I took it to 3 different vehicle inspection places, and they all came up with different things. Yeah, so one was like it's got an oil leak, one was like it's got a cracked windscreen, one was like it's got a loose seat, one was like it needs a new seat belt. What else did I have? I had a lot of things.
Now, the newest part of your car are the number plates, front and rear.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And
Good
now
value. Good value. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, and now I can't wave my fist at people because I'm actually one of us now. Whereas before, when I was in New South Wales, I was like, yeah.
That's right. You can just go like and go, sorry, I'm West Australia now. We're all schmucks over here.
But no, it was a trial. But anyway, there you have it. What else has been taking your fancy that we haven't covered, Neil?
What's been annoying me most this week? Not a lot, other than the fact that I can't ride my motorcycle too much because it's been raining all the time. But other than that, all is pretty good.
Yes.
I was quite intrigued, as we spoke about methamphetamine a short time ago. I was surprised to find the new strategy, the new tack mode from the police department of dob in a druggie. Well, that's new. That'll never catch on.
Yeah.
Every 3 years they do this, and they think, the drug problem is getting completely out of hand. Let's dob in that's fine. People have been dobbing in druggies for years and years and years. What they need now is when you dob them in, what you'd like to have happen is someone actually take some notice of it and do something about it.
Yeah.
I know they're tipping over houses and so forth and getting lots of gear and so forth, but these are not things that have taken place within the hour. This is protracted operations that have had undercover people, surveillance and all the rest of it to make sure they get the Mr. Biggs and not just people who are pushing it around in a wheelbarrow. So, yeah, that's fine. And I would expect that the thrust behind dobbing a druggie would be if the house next door smells chemicals, tell the police about it. Not just, I saw someone smoking a reefer in the bus stop the other day.
Yeah.
Because they'll ignore that. They want to know about the heavy-duty stuff, and that's fine. We encourage that. But let's hope, because they're pushing the barrow on this, that they actually have the people available to follow up. Otherwise, everyone's going to go complacent, ho-hum, here we go again, dobbing a druggie. I did a month and a half ago, and nothing happened.
Yes, exactly.
And the police, and you are entitled to, if you complain to the police, say to them, I would like to know the outcome.
Yes. Is that something that is just a courtesy? There's no compunction. There's no compulsory getting back to anybody who's filed a complaint.
No, unless you ask, they won't.
Yeah. But Neil, in terms of the dob in a druggie and houses that are drug houses, particularly with things like methamphetamines and when they've got labs in houses, it's fairly obvious, isn't it, that a neighbour would most likely think that's probably not just a happy family in there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, would for me, would for you, and most everybody else I know. And I don't want to be sort of too picky with the various suburbs and so forth, but in some places, a lot of people don't care about that because it's an easy shilling.
Yeah.
And it's proven time and time again when the cops turn these places over and there's kids living in these houses.
Yeah,
for crying out loud. And these are the children of the manufacturers that are cooking up all the goodies in the bathtub, whatever they do it in. So yeah, there's those there who are prepared to take the risk that's involved because there's big bucks in it.
Exactly.
There's big bucks in it.
Exactly.
So if you get someone, ring up. And we say time and time again, it might seem trivial to you and might not seem of any consequence, but it might be the last piece they're looking for to nail somebody. So flood them with information. Let them sort it out about what's good, what's bad, and what's indifferent, and let's hope we can get some action on this that takes some of this misery away from the community.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. There's no harm in calling the police with a suspicion. Nothing's going to come back to you, and that might be exactly.
Well, you can even get on a Crime Stoppers, and if you get good information, you can get a reward.
Exactly.
So you make a quid out of it.
Exactly.
Don't go dob me in though, because I haven't done anything. Yeah.
All right, now we've also got a community forum coming up on the 10th of August,
Where's that?
It's at Shalom House and doors open wide, and Chris Hatton MLA is going to be involved in that, and we're going to be speaking with Howard about that in just a little while. So that might be something that you'd also might be interested in.
He'd have plenty to say about that.
Pardon?
Sattler have plenty to say about that.
He'll have plenty to say about that. He'll have plenty to say about that. But it's also where it's about the meth strategy that the government is planning. So that's going to be something that a lot of people will be very interested in seeing, and it's very important that there's more than just the police, that the whole of community gets involved in it. And the Honourable Andrea Mitchell, MLA, and Honourable Lisa Harvey will be involved in that. So that's
say hello for me to Lisa.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
So that's 10th of August. So we'll be talking more about that community forum and how people can get involved in that.
Beautiful.
Now, Inspector Neil Royle,
Retired.
Thank you so much for your chat about law and order. Always fascinating to talk with you. I'm so glad Murray's gone on holiday, so I had the chance to do it today.
You're a wonderfully brave person for two reasons. You've come and confronted all us in here, and you've driven through that awful traffic.
I know, poor me.
Good on you.
Thanks,
We'll
Neil.
do it again next Wednesday.
Absolutely.
This is the Sattler Files.